Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. It wasn't my intention to film this video today. I had something else planned. It was a writer content video, I think, but the new trailer for Emily popped up and my friend Kayla, who you will have seen from my Persuasion video, sent it to me, and I thought it's another literature heritage-based film that's going to be coming out soon, and so I thought, let's go for it. Let's do another trailer reaction. I'm not going to become a reaction video, reaction channel, sorry. I'm certainly not going to be doing these all the time, but as and when a trailer does come up for something that I think is going to be really interesting for me and for you to watch, I think I'm going to do these reaction videos. So without further ado, let's get into it, let's watch it, and then I'll come back and I'll talk a little bit more afterwards. Okay. If I'm looking off screen, it's because I'm watching it, but I'm going to put the actual trailer up here for you.
Emily, how did you write Wuthering Heights? Shall we begin?
Miss Emily Brontë.
You're off to become a wonderful teacher.
You know I don't like to meet new people.
What do you want to do?
Do you think I could be a writer? I have lots of stories.
Mr. Waitman will be tutoring you in French.
He speaks with such poetry. Any man can speak. What I want to know is, can he actually do?
Do what?
You're supposed to be an artist. So be an artist.
What is that?
I wrote it. Freedom in thought!
Come on! Freedom in thought!
I have often struggled to understand you.
Your poetry.
Do not bring shame on this house, Emily.
Did you write these? It's an ugly book.
There's something ungodly in your writing. I feel it when we're together.
You don't think I'm the strange one?
Everyone's
Ooh.
strange if you look at them for long enough.
Ooh, I saw something very exciting then.
Who are you? You wait and see.
Okay, so it says it's coming to cinemas on October 14th, so that's interesting. I thought it was coming out on like Netflix or something like that. It's actually going to go into cinemas, so I might have to do a little cinema trip, maybe with my sister, and see, we'll go and watch it and then give our kind of opinions on it. So what do I think? Well, there were a couple of things that I was a little bit intrigued by. One was her use of opiates. I don't know if the Brontë sisters used opiates regularly, but I really hope that that is historically accurate, because otherwise it feels a little bit tokenistic to throw some drug use in there. Oh, well, of course, their genius didn't come from themselves. It came from drug use and abuse and this, that and the other. So it sounds awful to say I hope that drug use was historically accurate, but I hope you know what I mean there. The other thing is that this is very obviously about Emily, and the other two sisters, from the trailer at least, seem to have been kind of dulled down to almost not like wicked stepsisters, but like these frivolous peripheral characters. And you know, obviously you will know, I know, that Charlotte Brontë and Anne Brontë were also two hugely successful authors in their own right. I mean, we think of the Brontë sisters, we don't think of just Emily and these other two minor writers. Each writer in and of themselves had a huge hit. You know, Charlotte Brontë had Jane Eyre, Emily Brontë had Wuthering Heights, and Anne Brontë had The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. So they all in and of themselves had one huge hit. They wrote under pseudonyms together. There was Currer, Acton and Ellis Bell, which were their pseudonyms because they published under male names. And so for me, definitely, when I think of the Brontë sisters, they are a trio together. Now, I understand that they've probably done it in this way because they're wanting to literally portray Emily. And it'd be interesting to know whether the creators are planning another 2 films, one called Charlotte and one called Anne. That would be really interesting, and I'd be really excited by that, to be honest, by one writer and one creator making 3 different films all about each sister would be really interesting. And it'd be exciting if it was like all filmed at the same time in the same theme, and even some scenes crossover from one film to the next so that you can see that continuity. I think that would be really interesting, but I don't know whether that is a plan at the moment. The bit that I got super excited about was basically, I believe, just from that tiny clip, that was filmed at Temple Newsam in Leeds. Now, I know Temple Newsam House inside out because I used to work there, and that is, from what I understand, is a staircase coming from one of the wings into the central part of the house where the main staircase is. I am going to watch that again just to see if it is Temple Newsam. So I wanted to film all of this at once, but I had to nip out for a meeting. So basically I've had to come back and I'm starting again. So if I look a little bit different, if my hair looks a little bit more wild and I look like I've got slightly less makeup on, that's probably because it's about 5 hours after I filmed the initial reaction bit. While I had my break to go to my meeting, I also had a look and did a little bit more research on Emily Brontë. Not research, but just basically read a little bit more about her life. Like I said, didn't really know that much. And that seems to be about the sum of it for most people. She's probably the least known of the 3 Brontë sisters because she was very quiet. She was a homebody. She didn't really like going away from home very much. She did spend some time in Brussels, from what I understand, learning French with her sister Charlotte, but other than that she didn't seem to want to travel much, and she liked to be at home in Haworth with her father and her brother. So yeah, I had a little bit of a look at that. I couldn't find any reference to opiate use, so I'll be really interested to see what that looks like in the actual film itself. And I thought what we'd do is go through the trailer again, and I'll stop at certain points when I see something that I kind of want to discuss, rather than just me talking to you here. So let's do that.
Emily, how did you write Wuthering Heights?
So this, I was trying to work out as well whether I thought that it had been filmed at Brontë Parsonage in Haworth, which is really close to where I live. So I've grown up basically going to Haworth regularly as a child. And I've been in the Brontë Parsonage Museum. I've seen the rooms that the 3 sisters wrote their novels in. And so for me, it's really lovely. I'm really happy to have a novel about Haworth and about the sisters' lives. So I just wanted to kind of see if I could recognise any of it. And these bits do look like they are certainly at Haworth, outside the front of the museum. I'll see what else I recognise. Not sure what that's all about.
Shall we begin?
I'm also not sure about this "shall we begin" thing, and as in who she's telling her life, because the thing is, Wuthering Heights was written and she died a year after it was published, so she never really knew how popular the novel was, and so this would have to be between the year of it being published and between her death that this interview would be going on. And the only person who I know who kind of was a contemporary who kind of wrote a little bit about Emily's life was Elizabeth Gaskell, who actually was writing a biography about Charlotte Brontë, but from my understanding wrote a little bit about Emily's life as well. I haven't actually read that biography, but I would like to. So yeah, I'm a bit unsure about what this kind of like narration over the top is. Maybe it's a very small part of the film and it's just they're just using that little clip to kind of create the trailer, which I know does happen sometimes.
Miss Emily Brontë.
You're off to become a wonderful teacher.
You know I don't like to meet new people.
I like that. I like the fact that it's like talking about how shy she was and how reserved. I hope they don't go into the realms of trying to make out that she has a lot of mental health issues. I'm not sure she did. I think she was just quite a homebody, really, from what I understand of her life. But yeah, we'll see.
What do you want to do?
Do you think I could be a writer? I have lots of stories.
Mr. Wayton will be tutoring you in French.
This is probably going to be one of my biggest bugbears about this film, is that there seems to be a love story subplot, and one of the defining characteristics about Emily Brontë is that she never had any kind of romance. Now, whether this is, and I might be wrong in my understanding, I will say this time and time again that I'm not an expert. I am literally reviewing these trailers from an area of passion and interest. From what I can understand and from what I've researched and from what I know from my own, she never had any love interest. So I'll be really frustrated if they've put that in simply because they feel like that needs to be in to make the film more interesting, which will be such a lazy trope if that's what they've done. I don't know. After watching this, I'm probably going to have to watch the film and then find out if there is any historical basis behind that. It might be that a historian has done some research and has found these letters or evidence of a relationship or something like that. But from what I understood, there was nothing.
He speaks with such poetry. Any man can speak. What I want to know is, can he actually do?
Do what?
You're supposed to be an artist, so be an artist.
What is that?
I also feel like the accent isn't right. I mean, I know that there's probably very few of these actors are Northern. I know that the guy who's playing the male love interest, who is, I can't think of what the actor's name is, but he's in, I first came across him in The Haunting of Hill House. And I think he's great. I think he's a very good actor. And he's been in something else historical, hasn't he, recently? Something else British. I can't think. And I think he's good, but he's not from Yorkshire, from what I understand. And so, yeah, it's always difficult. And I think it's even more difficult when you come from the area that they're trying to do an accent for. It's not terrible. I will say that. It's just got slightly more of a Lancashire twang to it than a Yorkshire twang. That's what I will say. I don't know why they've got her writing on her arm. That seems like quite a modern, especially the way it's been written down her arm. It's almost like a tattoo. Not very keen on that.
Freedom in thought!
Come on! Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!
I like that. Now, Frances O'Connor, am I right in thinking Frances O'Connor was the one who did Little Women? Okay, Frances O'Connor. Let's see what she's done that I've seen her in. Director. Okay, so Emily, this is the first film that Frances O'Connor has directed, which is interesting, and I think it's the first thing she's written. So she's been an actor for many, many years. I've seen her in lots of different things. What have I seen her in most recently? The Missing. She was in The Missing and she was excellent in The Missing. I think that's the thing that I'm thinking of her being in. Yeah, I'll put a little picture up of her face and then you'll know who I'm talking about. But she's an excellent actor, and so this is her kind of writing and directorial debut. And so, like I say, it'd be really interesting to see if she's planning on a trilogy piece. That would be fascinating. But for me, if you're going to do a trilogy piece like that, it has to be incredibly historically accurate, and it has to be more about the women themselves, their relationships, their impact on the literary world, that kind of larger literary sphere of kind of influence that was around at the time. Like, say, people like Elizabeth Gaskell. There was such a northern kind of pack of literary talent at that time that isn't really talked about very often. And even people like Florence Nightingale and Charles Dickens, they were kind of coming up from London to Manchester and spending time in the north. So it's not quite the kind of bleak backwater that is made out in media quite a lot of the time. It was, there were literary talents and literary kind of connections going on up here. And that would have been really nice to explore a little bit more, but Anyway, I'm going to end up rambling if I don't watch some more.
I have often struggled to understand you.
Your poetry.
Oh, there you go. She's kissing him. Boring, boring, boring. I'm not interested in her kissing a boy.
Does you write these? It's an ugly book.
There's something ungodly in your writing. I feel it when we're together.
Yeah, so there they had, okay, so there's a few different bits that went on there. They were talking about her writing being ugly, and I think that what that's trying to hint at, and I'm not sure which of these actors are supposed to be Emily and Anne Brontë, but I'm assuming the one that said it was ugly is Charlotte, because I think out of the three, we know that Emily and Anne had a really, really close relationship. We don't really know a lot about Emily and Charlotte's relationship, but from the way that Charlotte wrote about Emily after she died, I think there may have been a slight bit of tension between the two of them. And so I suspect that they're playing on that and they're exaggerating that in this film. So I suspect that it's Charlotte Brontë who's said that, because this comes off the back of Jane Eyre, which had been released prior to Wuthering Heights, which had done very well, but I think it was very much seen as like a romance novel. It obviously has elements of gothic and other things, but I think Wuthering Heights was seen as really, really kind of like horrific and passionate and quite brutal, and so it made waves a lot more than Jane Eyre had. And so I think that's maybe they're playing on the whole bit of like professional jealousy there. And then the whole opium thing, again, I don't have any reason to understand that she would have been taking opiates. In fact, it's said that towards the end of her life, she was actually really reluctant to see a doctor. In fact, she may not have recovered from her illness, which eventually killed her, if she'd seen a doctor earlier, but she refused right up until the day that she died to see a doctor. And so I find it bizarre that she would turn to opiates when part of her characteristic is that she was very, very against medicine. So that's a bit odd as well.
Strange one.
Let's go back a little bit. There. That is, I am almost 1000% sure, and I'll hold my hand up and shout at me if I'm wrong, but I am almost 100% sure that is Temple Newsam House in Leeds. So this is the central part of Temple Newsam. This is the main staircase that goes down to basically Temple Newsam House is a U-shaped building in Leeds, and this is kind of the crux of one of the corners that goes out to one of the wings. Like I say, I know Temple Newsam very well. I worked there for a year, which doesn't seem like a long time really, but when you are actually working there every day of your life, you do get to know these buildings inside out. So as soon as I saw that clip, I was like, oh, that's Temple Newsam. So I'm really excited actually to see how much more has been filmed at Temple Newsam, because it's such a beautiful house. If you live up north, if you live anywhere near kind of Leeds, I highly, highly recommend you go and visit Temple Newsam House.
Everyone's strange if you look at them for long enough.
I like that saying. Everyone's strange if you look at them for long enough. That's so true. Like, I think it's that whole thing again of like, what is mental health? We're all on a mental health spectrum. And so I really hope that any kind of hints at mental health is kind of subtle and nuanced, and it kind of looks like it might be. So that's quite good, but we'll just have to see.
Who are you?
That was definitely the front of the parsonage. Absolutely, that was. Recognise that. I'm sure I do. So there was a scene there of burning something, letters or writings maybe. There was some hint that Emily Brontë was writing a second novel before she died, and that manuscript has never come to light. So whether it was burned or whether it's just been lost to time, that could be hinting at that. It could be burning the letters between her and this love interest, trying to say that, you know, it's only rumour because any letters surviving between the two have since been burned. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
You wait and see.
I do have to say I love the scenes of the kind of sweeping landscape, and I hope that they really have capitalised on that. It looks like they have from the trailer, because A, that area of Yorkshire is absolutely beautiful. B, that we know that those moorlands at the back of the parsonage are what inspired Emily Brontë to write Wuthering Heights and the wild and misty moors that the Kate Bush song was kind of written about. So it's one of those things, you can't have any kind of biopic about Emily Brontë and not have the wild sweeping Yorkshire moorland as part of the film. So I am glad that they kept that in, but of course we knew that they would do, really. I do think that copy of that book, they don't show the cover. I mean, this is me being really nitpicky now. I'm sure that is a first edition. But if it's not, like, that, it will be. It will be a first edition. They'll have used a first edition. Why would you not? Just looks very well printed, is all I'm going to say. It looks like it might be a more modern binding, which is a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a shame that they haven't used a first edition, but maybe whoever owns first editions of Emily Brontë, Wuthering Heights, were like, nope, not lending that to a film crew, which I can understand as well. So anyway, that is my kind of in detailed response. I am cautiously excited to watch this. I think the scenery looks absolutely beautiful. The music, the soundtrack sounds really lovely. I don't know who the composer is, but I'll be looking at that. So the main actor who plays Emily looks great, seems to be a really great actor. I've not seen her in anything else. I understand she's maybe from Sex Education, but I haven't seen that, so I don't know. But she seems like a good actor. We'll see. Yeah, sorry, I'm going into lots and lots of detail. I've rambled on for a really long time. Overall, like I say, cautiously optimistic. I really hope that it's good, and I really, really want them to do another one. I want them to do a Charlotte. I want them to do an Anne. In fact, I'd actually like them to do Emily, Anne, and then Charlotte, because I think actually Charlotte's probably the least interesting out of the three, from my own personal interest. You know. So yeah, I am very excited to see this come out of the cinema. If you want me to do like a cinema trip with my sister, we can always go to the cinema and watch it together and then give our views and opinions afterwards. So let me know if you want me to do that. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I create content about books, literary films, historical dramas. I'm a writer, so I do content about writing, my life as a writer, and my books, and all that kind of stuff. There's also a few vlogs thrown in there, just because I spend my life sometimes doing things other than writing and reading, and I share a little bit of that with you. So if that kind of writing, literature, books, lifestyle content sounds like your bag, then please consider subscribing. I publish every Monday evening, and yeah, I hope that you'll become part of our family. Thank you very much for joining this video. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you next week. Take care.